Hi, and welcome to our presentation entitled Just Stop and Think About It. This is a critical thinking pilot project presentation where we're exploring the application of a tool called root cause analysis at the grade school level. My name is Robert J. Latino, CEO of Reliability Center Incorporated, and my chief analyst that assisted me with this was actually a 5th grade student. Reliability Center Incorporated is a 40-year-old research and development group specializing in the area of equipment, process, and human reliability. Our best practices are applied in over 20 countries around the world. Here is a sample of our client listing. The objective of this presentation is to demonstrate that field-proven critical thinking skills from industry, healthcare, service, and the government sectors can be learned and effective as a core skill in the elementary, middle, and high school levels of academia. First, I want to go through a little bit about this critical thinking approach, which we call PROACT. The steps of the PROACT approach are preserving event data, ordering the analysis team, analyzing that data with the team, communicating our findings and recommendations, and then tracking for some bottom line result that something got better as a result of our efforts. So let's take a look at where does failure come from. Failure typically starts with deficient organizational systems. These are usually defined things such as policies and procedures, human factors, our communication systems, our technologies that we use to implement many of these, training mechanisms, and of course management oversight. When we have deficient systems, then we are typically feeding poor information to well-intentioned decision makers. As a result of that, our well-intentioned decision makers make the improper decision. So as a result of an improper decision, we trigger a series of cause and effect relationships which are typically the consequences of that decision. And usually it's not just one mechanism that is triggered. There's usually multiple paths that this creates. So if we don't break the chain, the sequence of these events, then eventually what's going to happen is we're going to have an undesirable outcome that we're going to have to address in one form or another anyway. So for terminology's sake, we're going to refer to these organizational system deficiencies as latent root causes. That's exactly what they are. They're always there. They can't hurt anybody by themselves, but they have to be activated by a human decision. So that's what we'll refer to as human root causes. It's the actual decision error. As a result of the poor decision, we trigger physical root causes or observable root causes to be apparent. So that's understanding where does failure come from. All we're doing with the root cause analysis is that we're going to be working that backwards. I'm going to be showing you this thing called the logic tree, and here's a few definitions that'll come in handy. The event is going to be the undesirable outcome or the least acceptable consequence. The mode is going to be the direct cause of the event. It's going to be a fact. Hypotheses are going to be educated guesses. Physical roots are basically the consequence of a decision. The human roots are the decision itself, and then the latent roots are going to be the basis or the reason for the bad decision. Let's explore this thing called the logic tree now. We're essentially going to be recreating the failure backwards in time. Sort of like the moniker of that we have over here of our film, which is going to say that we're going backwards in time, frame by frame, and we're going to ask continual questions about how something could occur. So our event is, as we defined it, it's the least acceptable consequence. The modes are going to be facts that occurred that are at the scene, and there's no dispute that these did occur. But now we have to start asking, well, how could the mode have occurred? We're going to be coming up with all the possibilities. These, of course, are our hypotheses. We're going to use the evidence that we collected to prove what did and what did not happen. We're going to continue that how can questioning and following down on the things that were true. This will eventually uncover the physical roots, the human roots, and then the latent root. Now notice here that when we go from physical roots to human roots, we're going to switch our questioning from how could to why. We want to understand why someone felt it was the right decision at the time that they made it. This will uncover our systemic deficiencies or our latent root causes. Okay, now let's explore a fifth grader's critical analysis of the topic of bullying, very prominent today. Okay, here we're going to start with our logic tree. Remember, I left a legend up over here to understand any of the icons that may not make sense. The event in this case is that bullying makes the victim less confident, 9 times more likely to commit suicide. The mode in this case is going to be the actual bullying. So this is the cause, this is the effect. So our question becomes, how can we have bullying which results in producing less confident individuals? Well, we know from the evidence that we collect that cyberbullying represents 4% of the types of bullying, physical bullying 15%, and verbal bullying 48%. Well, how do we know that? Because as part of our data collection, the preserve aspects of PROACT, I can double click on here and I could reveal our verification log. Our verification log says what verification method did we use, and our fifth grader analyst in this case did an internet search. They found that 4% of the bullying was from cyberbullying. They knew that from an article that they had pulled up and included frequently asked questions and statistics. So this was essentially the literature search in this case. So this becomes our documented evidence as to why we believe and can support that 4% of the bullying is due to cyberbullying. This represents this confidence factor. It's how confident are we in the evidence that we have. A 5 means we're absolutely confident, and a 0 means that it's not true based on the evidence that we have. Then we have shades of gray in between. It's a way of measuring the effectiveness of or the validity of our evidence. Okay, so for the sake of example, we're going to continue down the verbal bullying side because that represents the largest part. So how could we have verbal bullying? Well, as a system, in order to have bullying, we need to have a bully, we need to have a person being bullied, and we need to have an environment in which to be bullied. So let's explore all of those. So now we're going to say it's going to be bully related. How can it be bully related? The bully is insecure. The bully needs to be in control. The bully is in need of attention. The bully is rewarded materially or with prestige. The bully cannot control their emotions. And the bully lacks empathy. This all comes from our literature searches from our 5th grade lead analyst. So now I'm at a person level. I'm going to ask myself, why is the bully typically insecure? And this is going to be related back to the home life. So we leave the school and we go back to the home life. And we say, well, what about the home life could cause the bully to be insecure? And we find from our literature search that we have little warmth or affection at the home, trouble sharing our feelings, inconsistent discipline with the bully, little monitoring of the children by the parent, punitive and rigid discipline by the parents, and they usually have physical punishment. So when we look at the sources of why the bully feels the need to bully, then we look back at the home life, and these are typical indicators. So underneath each of these, we say home life related, and they all follow the same logic. So there's not going to be a need to revisit these on each of those. We just have to know that the sources of their behaviors come from consistent home lives. Okay, so now we go to the person being bullied. Why do they allow themselves to be bullied? Well, typically children are too scared to say anything. Sometimes it's children with low self-esteem, and also children with neurodevelopment conditions. Well, what about the environment which allows the bully to do their bullying? So why could this be school related? The school does not act on bully reports. The kids do not tell an adult, or it could be school policy related. So let's explore the school does not act on bully reports. Now notice here that I have zeros in here instead of 5s because I'm leaving this open to interpretation because, it would be on individual circumstances. The action by the school system was not observable for confidential reasons. They took an action, but we just may not see it. the bully report was perceived as not credible. This gets back to the boy who cried wolf type of syndrome. Or the bully report falls in the cracks inadvertently, but it was never addressed regardless. So this just means we might be understaffed, we may have too many reports, but those are things that happen in reality. The kids do not tell an adult. Why would the kids not tell an adult? For fear that they will be in trouble with the school. Maybe they have a fear that they will be in trouble with the bully if they do so. Or the fear that somehow it is their fault and they're embarrassed to say anything. Then we have school policy related. This is a possibility. The current bully policy is inadequate. Maybe the current bully policy is adequate, but we don't follow it for some reason. Or the bully policy doesn't exist, which is unlikely in today's environment. So our purpose in going through this example is just to be able to show the cause and effect reasoning, the questioning, and the very methodical flow of drilling down and understanding the consequences of our decisions, but also the reasons for making the decision in the first place. So this is the application of a structured critical thinking process used successfully in industries across the world that could very well work within the school systems on typical issues like this. Okay, I'd like to thank you for your time in reviewing the possibility of using this tool called root cause analysis and or critical thinking skills within the grade level schools. For more information on this case or the RCA approach used, please visit www.reliability.com. To explore how to best utilize these technologies for your students and explore the possibilities, please contact myself, Bob Latino, at 804-458-0645, or my email, which is blatino@reliability.com. I thank you for your time.